Competitive bodybuilders, guys, are, I mean, literally less than 1% of the entire population. Chest up, shoulders back. Welcome to Revival Fitness, everybody. You have average genetics, and that's okay. You have average genetics, so do most people. So what happens too many times in this fitness game is kind of this vicious cycle. So when you start, you're all pie-eyed. You're new, you're just looking at, oh, this guy is so strong, this guy looks so great. You're enamored with all of the amazing potential you see with the gym. And then you get into your journey, and of course you're going to make a lot of mistakes, especially if you're somebody like me who went into this totally blind. You just went into the gym and started pressing weights without any knowledge of anything. You're doing hashtag bodybuilder on your Instagram, you don't even have a bicep vein yet. Then a few months go by, maybe a year or so. Then you look in the mirror and you start looking on social media, you start to wonder, you're like, you know, I'm not that strong yet. I'm not that big yet. And you realize, I don't look like these guys. Then you're gonna start to question yourself because you've been looking at these guys on social media, and a lot of these people, again, we know that you can't even get reliable information, whether it's training or whatever substances people are taking, but that's beside the point. But you're not them. And there's nothing wrong with comparison, guys. You should compare yourself and strive to be better, but you don't want to be delusional. When you see these rare instances, these rare breeds of people with freak genetics, right? Genetically elite, huge, strong, ripped at the same time, draw inspiration from it. But don't negatively compare yourself to that. We can't all be top 1%, guys. It's called a bell curve. Not everybody can be at the top, but also not everybody can be at the bottom. Chances are, I mean, it would be very rare somebody does not have worse genetics than you do. There's not many people on these forums and in these comments that have significant deformities and major injuries that affect them. And this is what a lot of young men, especially young people, new lifters, they fall into this trap. And this is more so pronounced in the bodybuilding side of things, the aesthetic side of things, than powerlifting and strength. But this is what happens. Because then you say, well, I don't have an 8-pack. I don't have this crazy bicep peak. I don't have striations in whatever part of the body I want, right? Then you start to get really critical of yourself because, again, you're comparing yourself to these people that, again, you don't know what or how they're doing what they're doing. And then you dive into the rabbit hole of Reddit and YouTube and forums, right? Bodybuilding.com, if that's even a thing still. So once you've put your time in the well with lifting, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, even longer in terms of years, your genetic weak points and strong points are going to show. So unless you've got significant like deformities or some serious illness or some extreme injury, you don't really have an excuse here. There's no point in spending all this time, oh, grade my lat insertions, grade my chest insertions. You know what I mean? All these guys spend so much time just, they want to get like validation and they want other people to tell them that their genetics are bad so they can be like, oh, good. And this is something a lot of you guys need to internalize. And I wish I would have internalized it sooner because it ultimately is going to help your results. Even if you've got tangible progress, even if your strength is improving, even if your shirts are getting a little more snug, even if people are telling you like, hey, you're looking a little bit bigger, you still will not internalize that because your entire perception of aesthetics and genetics is skewed by the social media fake natty landscape that we're all drowning in currently. So what you guys have to realize is this. Just because you don't have IFBB Pro Olympia caliber genetics doesn't mean you shouldn't train. And also, just because you aren't the size of an IFBB Pro does not mean you don't look like you lift to the average person. There is a huge disconnect between the average day-to-day person who just maybe runs or jogs or, you know, does push-ups at home, just general stay in shape exercising, right? Versus hardcore lifters for aesthetics or strength or whatever. So you guys have to understand, man. If you're at the point now where you're benching 200 plus pounds, okay, if you're squatting 3 plates, deadlifting 3 or 4 plates, if your diet is dialed in, if you're eating mostly healthy foods, to the average person, right, your parents, classmates, people just walking down the street, you look like you lift. I know based on Instagram comments and YouTube comments and all the delusion on the internet, people think that nobody looks like they lift unless they're an IFBB Pro, but guess what? To the average person, this is jacked. And I'm sure you experienced this, right? You know, family, friends, they're like, dude, you're getting really big. And in your mind, you're like, no, I'm not. But to them, yes, you are, because they see you day in and day out, right? They know that you're getting bigger. They can literally see it with their own eyes. it's hard to get a real perception of yourself in the mirror, right? Because you really don't even know what you look like. What you look like in the mirror to yourself and your mental image of yourself is very, very different than what other people see of you. That's just a fact. And if you want proof of this, look at celebrities, actors, influencers, whenever they make minor changes to their physique. People lose their minds. They think it's the greatest thing ever, because to them it is. Guys, look at old photos of like Justin Bieber. Now, of course, these are edited because it's like a professional photo shoot and whatever, but the point stands. These photos, right, of Bieber, I remember when these first came out, there were girls and people in the comments oh, he's so buff, he's so ripped. No, he's not. He's 145 pounds soaking wet, but he's lean, so he looks ripped. Okay? By bodybuilding internet standards, they look like garbage. Take a look too at Brad Pitt in Fight Club. He's not that big, right? Same with Bieber. He's just very, very lean at a low body fat, so he appears like he's shredded. If you show this to, like, you know, the typical lifting gym culture bro, it's like, oh, he's tiny, he's scrawny. You show this to somebody walking down the street, they think he's a Greek god. So there's a major disconnect here. So just because you don't necessarily have the greatest chest insertions, or you don't have, you know, an insanely broad sternum and broad shoulders, that's not the end of the world, guys. Okay? Now, if you're competing, that becomes more of an issue, right? But you gotta understand too, competitive bodybuilders, guys, are, I mean, literally less than 1% of the entire population. You guys can go on Instagram, right? You see one, you see them all. They all start popping up in your feed. Now, depending on the gym crowd and kind of who you know, here's where a lot of guys, and this is really not a good thing. Again, I have nothing against PEDs, but this is where a lot of beginners get on the PED train way too early, right? Because they've been in the gym and they don't look that good. They've been in the gym. You guys, this happens all the time in gyms. 4, 5, 6 months, even in some extreme cases, guys, I mean, they'll literally start the day they begin lifting. And this also applies to girls. You want to pay attention now? Here's the thing. You guys got to understand too. Girls do not necessarily care or even want a huge, like, bodybuilder looking guy. We saw the dad bod craze. Now, is being in shape going to help you with women? Broadly speaking, yes, okay? But it's not the end-all be-all. So you guys have to realize, just because you don't have these crazy eye-popping genetics, right? You're not Ronnie Coleman size when you're 18 years old, doesn't mean you're not going to get really solid results. It doesn't mean you're not going to look good down the line. And you got to understand, to the average person, if you've been in the gym for a year, 2, 3 years, and you know what you're doing, you already look big to the average person, guys. You can look at the data. Most Americans don't exercise at all. 3 out of 4 are overweight. So the standards aren't very high currently. So just because you don't look like a brushed up professional photo shoot freak does not mean that your accomplishments or your goals are invalidated, guys. I see so much time being spent on YouTube, on Reddit, on these forums, on people just mentally fapping to this, my genetics. So all of this is relative. There's no point in spending mental capital and like putting time into just, what about this, what about that, right? Just do what you can, make informed choices. If you put more time into studying your form and learning it, you know, programming, learning how to cook new food, as opposed to sitting on these forums all day, oh, rate my this, how would you guys, you know what I mean? Just enough of it, dude. And if you want to go down a competitive route at some point, that's when it becomes more serious, but most people aren't going to do that anyway. So that is that, guys. Thank you for watching. Check this channel for more resources on nutrition, training, all that good stuff. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to see next, and I will catch you next time.